Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Bakari Lumumba, back once again, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. Back once again with another video where we're going to have a conversation about your boy. We're talking about the Godfather of the Mansosphere, none other than, of course, one Kevin Samuels. We know he was a controversial social media presence, a YouTuber, as well as an image consultant. And of course, we're going to have a conversation regarding did Kevin Samuels help or hurt, of course, the Black community. Before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. And in a minute, we'll put the link in the chat. But once again, as I said before, this is LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. And so to do that, I want to bring you all to, of course, my website, LumumbaSpeaks.com, where we discuss reclaiming who you are by always betting on Black, right? We do have a number of topics that we discuss, that we go over, and actually initiatives that we look to implement, right? Have some literature on some of my, of course, publications. But one of the things that we do, I think, that really sets us apart here at Lumumba Speaks is that we are solution-oriented. We know, unfortunately, many Black people throughout the world have been the victims of course, white supremacy, anti-Black racism, so on and so forth. And so one of the things that we look to do is provide insightful, but also actually prescriptive manners of combating many of the issues that we face, right? So one of the most, I think, controversial and hot button topics we discuss, of course, is Pan-Africanism dead? We discuss combating, of course, police brutality. We talk about understanding contemporary African-American politics, as well as African-American models of success. I think that's one of my best lectures I do. I think it's very important that we actually have a conversation with brothers and sisters about what does it mean to be an African-American? What does it mean to be successful in, of course, this society, right? We know, unfortunately, oftentimes what we find is brothers and sisters tend to have trouble being Black serious, as well as taking life seriously, right? And oftentimes the two aren't able to meet. And as a result, they tend to believe that being successful in life means emulating them folks. So that's a great workshop that we do. And also we do one on navigating the post-secondary maze, right? And one of the things I could have put on here, of course, was conversation that we have about addressing issues in the workplace. Many people, brothers and sisters I know, oftentimes deal with issues of racism, white supremacy in the workplace. And I've been able to actually assist individuals and adjudicating those issues in a manner that were in their best interest and which they was able to accomplish and achieve their goals. And another thing I want to discuss very quickly before we get into the conversation is the concept of the red bike moment. We're going to be doing a show, I believe, on Wednesday, where we're going to be talking about what is your red bike moment, right? And so if you don't know the red bike moment, of course, it's a journey to Black consciousness. I actually had this conversation with my son when he was 11 years old. We visited the Muhammad Ali Center, of course, in Louisville, Kentucky. And of course, if you are familiar with the story, the late great, the greatest of all time, the greatest heavyweight champion of all time, one Muhammad Ali, born, of course, Cassius Marcellus Clay. He had a red bike moment. That was a red bike moment. That's a picture of the red bike. Was when he unfortunately had his bike stolen as a 12-year-old, and that led him to wanting to whoop whoever stole his bike. And he stumbled into, of course, a boxing gym. And then, of course, as they say, the rest was history. So when we talk about the red bike moment, one of the things that we look at is almost, and when we talk about this concept of the Black psychology of nigrescence, is what led to you having a healthy Black identity. And we argue, of course, from a Black psychologist standpoint, that part of having a healthy Black identity is having the ability to understand and be cognizant of the litany of issues that Black people face in America. And so, of course, I have a picture of myself when I was a young buck, right? A young pup, actually, right? A cub, as they would say. And of course, and I speak up, and this is actually a picture of me when I was 4, not of course when I was 6, but at the tender age of 5 and 6, I stumbled upon my parents' seldom read Ebony Pictorial History of Black America book collection, where I learned about the great Marcus Garvey, who of course wanted us to go home, and of course that was love for me. I learned about, of course, Joseph Cinque, who led the Amistad Slave Rebellion. Then, of course, last but not least, I learned, unfortunately, about the, well, not unfortunately, but I learned about the horrors of the Middle Passage, the Ma'afa, the African Holocaust, of course, of colonialism, imperialism, racism, and slavery. And this was an eye-opening experience for me. And it led to me having an unapologetic stance of Black pride and a steadfast desire to fight against anti-Black racism at a very early age. And so we're going to be doing a broadcast on that on a course this coming Wednesday. So once again, hope everyone could tap in for that. Make sure you hit the subscribe and like button and that notification bell. But with that being said, we're going to jump into it. So I'm going to put the link in the chat, and then we can have a conversation about Kevin Samuels and did he help or hurt the Black community? We're going to go over some ground rules first and foremost. As everyone knows on my show, I believe in facts over feelings, right? So you could provide a perspective, but we wanted to be rooted in factual information. As a result, we ask that you are not being intellectually disingenuous, right? Number 2, I think is very important, and this is something I really harp on, is that you do not use racial epithets of any kind to describe Black people in any way, shape, or form. That's not something that we do here. We believe in Black empowerment. We believe that you could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. So one of the things when we talk about those 3 N's, that's Black power, self-respect, self-defense, and of course, self-determination. First and foremost, we have to respect ourselves as African people, respect ourselves as Black people, respect ourselves, of course, as people of African descent, and that we should not refer to each other in a negative or pejorative manner. So that's number 1. And so, of course, we're going to have a conversation about the controversial late Kevin Samuels. As you all know, he was a YouTuber, social media presence, a image consultant, and even many people are your self-described dating guru, right? And so I would think we could have this conversation. We know there's just been a proliferation of TikTok therapists per se, and many people who are actually in the counseling and therapy industry find that to be extremely disconcerting. Not only is it probably hurting their bottom line financially, but oftentimes the individuals that are giving this advice do not have the skill set or the gravitas or even, of course, the education to actually give advice in a manner that's actually going to be holistic and beneficial. But I think also when we have a conversation about Kevin Samuels, we have to be honest that this man created a cottage industry, right? We know that as a result of this brother's platform, right, which had over, I think, almost 1.5 million subscribers, people were making reaction videos left and right. People were creating their own platforms and becoming monetized and having 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 subscribers where they were simply doing reaction videos on his brother's content. So he did create, of course, a cottage industry based on his platform, his brand, so on and so forth. So with that being said, as I stated before, I put the link in the chat. Come on, have a conversation with me about do you believe that Kevin Samuels helped or hurt the Black community? And of course, we can have a conversation. I get my perspective as well about Kevin Samuels. There are some things I liked about what he said, many things I agree with. Then there were some things, of course, that I didn't agree with, and we can have that conversation. But once again, facts over feelings. We don't want to attack the person. We just want to attack the argument. And that's if you are arguing the affirmative or, of course, even the negative. So tap in. The link is in the chat. Good old H2O. So I will start off by sharing one of the things I agree with Kevin Samuels on is when he would always say that men, irrespective of their socioeconomic status, all would want a woman who was fit, feminine, and cooperative. That's something I would agree with, right? He made claims that, a lot of brothers aren't interested and don't want to be with sisters who are wearing weave and the long nails and looking like Halle Berry and Babs. I think that's something a reasonable person could agree with, right? But there were some things I disagreed with. One of the things he argued was that, of course, you could marry someone after only knowing them 6 months. I vehemently disagree with that because I did that once many years ago, almost 2 decades ago. And what I realized is you don't know someone after 6 months, right? You could be infatuated with the person. You could be enamored with someone after 6 months, but you don't necessarily know the person, right? And I think if you want to get married, and many people when they marry, the hope or plan is that they marry for what? For long term, for life. Then you really want to know the person that you're going to be, of course, um, hitching your caboose to, right? Um, Number two, one of the things that I disagreed with was, Kevin Samuels oftentimes talked about dating out. And for those of you who are in the know, when he talked about dating out, he was referring to this idea and concept of black men dating women out who aren't members of the black race. And I can recall I watched a clip of a show where he had a conversation with a sister, and he said that if the brother goes out and dates a non-black woman, marries a non-black woman, and then he has a family with that woman, it's still considered a black family. And Kevin Samuels believed that that was the case, and I would argue, no, it is not. Right? To have a black family, everyone in there has to be black, right? So that was something I would disagree with as well. We can even argue with Kobe Bryant's family, the late great Kobe Bryant. Um, One of the things that we saw was that when he passed away, his estate, his wealth that he accumulated, the generational wealth he accumulated, didn't go to the black community at all, right? And so I would argue that no, that's not a black family. And then last but not least, I do remember there was a time where this, and many people may be unaware of the fact that when Kevin Samuels came out, his platform for maybe the first year and a half or 2 years, it was addressed only towards men, right? And so, I mean, he was really going in on brothers, man, some of the things he was saying, he was on there, watch your stinking ass, and so on and so forth, right? But one of the things he mentioned was that, brothers should cut their hair to get a job, right? And I don't see what the big deal is. They're not arguing, they're not telling you to commit a crime, break the law, or change your religion, so on and so forth. And I disagree with that. I think that, in many, you can have dreadlocks, you can have an afro, but in any job, what is important in most jobs, particularly jobs that are public facing, is that you're well groomed, right? That you're clean cut. So I don't think it's an issue of having facial hair if you're on a job, right? I know a brother that I was in a graduate school with. He's a marketing executive, and he keeps a mini fro. He has a full beard, but he's well groomed. So I don't think that an individual has to cut their hair in order to, of course, work in corporate America and have a successful career. I think, and I'm an example of that as well. As many people know, I've been working in higher education for about the past 10 years, and I've also I'm of course a doctoral student, soon to be candidate. And so those of you who are in the know that for maybe the past, well, up until 2019, for about 10 years, I had dreadlocks, right? That never prohibited me from moving forward in my career. And so that might play a role in, of course, the industry that I work in. It tends to be more liberal and accepting of non-traditional values and behaviors, so on and so forth. But I think it's a misnomer to believe that you have to adhere to oftentimes white standards, quote unquote, in order to be successful. So those are some of the disagreements I have with, of course, some of the things that Kevin Samuels articulated. Would love to hear what you all have to say. Once again, the link is in the chat. Please let me know your thoughts. Once again, I have no care or concern if you agree or disagree with me. All I ask is that if you make a claim, you are not being intellectually disingenuous or dishonest. Facts over feelings. And then, of course, last rule and last but not least is that you are not being intellectually disingenuous, right? So with that being said, we're going to open things up. I will put the link in the chat one more time, and hope you could come in and be part of the conversation where we're asking the question, did Kevin Samuels help or hurt the Black community? That's the question. Did Kevin Samuels help or hurt the Black community? That's the question. Definitely looking to hear what you all think, what you all have to say. Please tap in. Once again, you don't have to cam up. I always state that you don't have to cam up to be part of the conversation. You could come on, keep your camera off, and share your perspective, right? So definitely looking forward to everyone to come out and share their perspective on domestic discipline. Was something that made me raise my eyebrows. Someone said it was a joke, but he said it multiple times. But Joan, so could you kind of elaborate on that, right? I never heard him use the term domestic discipline. So maybe you want to tap in, be part of the conversation, or if you want to put a link in the chat or voice your opinion in the chat, but would love for you to be part of the conversation because I never heard him use the term domestic discipline. Brother Malcolm Khalid is saying, in my honest opinion, he helped the Black community. Tap in, brother, tap in, be part of the conversation. of the conversation and let us know why you feel that he helped the Black community. I would argue that one of the things I think that he did say was he talked about an ethnic image. He talked about how growing up, how shame was used in the Black community in a positive manner, right? That how if you were part of a certain family, those are the Joneses, those were my family, the Lamumbas, or so on and so forth, or the Davids, or the Wrights, or the Ezekiel ways, right? There was an expectation of said behavior. Where the Joneses or the Ezekiel ways or the Lamumbas, they behave a certain way. You could tell the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they act, the way they carry themselves, the way that their mannerisms, right? That they are from a particular family. And that was something to be proud of, right? That was a sense of pride. I would also argue that that's something that we've gotten away from, right? Unfortunately, in our community. And, I think that's an issue. One of the things I would agree with that he mentioned was he would always talk about this idea of forget white people. They're like, well, you're saying this because you want us to act a certain way for white people. He said, no. He says, we need to be cognizant of the image that we're projecting to the world, right? How we're presenting ourselves to the world. We care about white folk, and I would argue, and I've always stated this, and we invoke the wisdom of one Martin Delany, who, of course, was the father of Black nationalism. Queen Mother Fannie Lou Hamer always taught us to never forget where we come from and praise the bridges that carried us over. And one Martin Delany taught us, he said it many years ago, right? Over 150 years ago, I care not what white people think about what I say, right, or do, right? And so this is about how we display ourselves to the world, right? And so I think those were some points that he made that I would agree with. So Jones, but I do agree with you in regards to dating for only 6 months before marriage. I highly disagree with that. He also said not to date at all. He never elaborated on that statement either. Right. Come on, brother. Tap in, be part of the conversation, man. You're holding out on me. Tap in, be part of the conversation. I'm going to put that link in the chat one more time. Tap in, be part of the conversation, right? I do recall one time where he had mentioned told a woman, you need to be giving that shit away, right? And you try to secure a man, right? The concept of being a born again virgin, right? Can a person be a born again virgin, right? This is rather comical, right? But we, maybe we can have a conversation about that as well. So, there's definitely something we can have a conversation about. So definitely want to hear you all thoughts. Did he help or hurt the Black community? Don't be shy. Don't be coy. Please jump in, be part of the conversation. Once again, you do not have to cam up, right? You do not have to cam up, but you can be part of the conversation. Tap in. Make sure you're hitting subscribe and the like button. We're having a conversation about one, Kevin Samuels, the late, of course, and controversial image consultant, YouTuber, social media presence, and many people would even argue self-styled relationship expert, of course. And so we want to have a conversation regarding Kevin Samuels. Did he help, of course, hurt the Black community? Many people will argue that his incendiary rhetoric against women, particularly Black women, right, was a cause for concern, and when she was engaging in misogynoir, and that many people took umbrage with some of the comments he made, most notably the average or your average at best video, right? However, many people argue that he was using his platform to make Black women look ridiculous, to look bad before the world. He argued that, of course, that was not the case, that he was having conversations in real time, and that people were coming on his show and making buffoons of themselves without any help or assistance from himself. Many people argue that he even was very mean-spirited with women. And of course, particularly his critics and detractors, he made the argument that he was simply matching the energy, right? That you couldn't come on his platform and be disrespectful, loud, and obnoxious. You had to answer questions, so on and so forth. Brother Malcolm says, no, a person cannot be a born-again virgin. That's a tactic women use to falsely cleanse themselves of their sexual past, right? Okay, very good. I would love for some sisters to be part of the conversation. Definitely would like for some people to tap in, be part of the conversation. Once again, you don't have to cam up, right? But you can tap in and, of course, give your perspective. All that I ask is facts over feelings. Do not be intellectually disingenuous, because if you make a claim that is patently false, I will cut you off. That is something that I do. I don't allow people to make claims that are patently false on my platform that undermines me, my credibility, what I'm looking to promote, my brand, so on and so forth. And then, of course, last but not least, you cannot use any racial epithets to describe Black people of any kind anywhere in the world. So we're not into that. No such thing as a born-again version. He had a positive impact on the community. He made both men and women accountable to their issues, which is the best step in change. Ashe, Black Power, New Kimmy TV. I appreciate that, brother. Tap in, be part of the conversation. You don't have to cam up. We'd love to get your perspective a little bit more. With that being said, once again, please hit the subscribe and like button. You're watching Lumumba Speaks, a Black empowerment initiative, of course, where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. Please check out the website, LumumbaSpeaks.com. It's on the banner below. Follow us on Instagram at Body by Lumumba, and of course on Facebook at Lumumba Speaks. On Twitter at Bakari Lumumba, and of course, as you know, on YouTube, you can follow us as well. We're having a conversation about the late and controversial YouTuber Kevin Samuels. I tend not to do many shows on, of course, pop culture, but I think this brother was so polarizing, right, that I think I would be remiss in my duty if we're talking about issues in the Black community and how to take a step forward if we did not, of course, have a conversation about him, Brother Samuel. So one of the things New Kimmy TV says is that he promoted accountability. Why do you think we've stepped away from accountability? How about you can tap in and we can have a conversation about why you believe he was promoting accountability in the community and why that was seen as extremely controversial and for many people problematic. I would love to hear what your thoughts on that. Absolutely would love to hear your thoughts on that. So we're having a conversation once again about Kevin Samuels, the controversial YouTuber, self-described, self-proclaimed relationship guru, and of course, image consultant, right? I laid out some of the issues or things I disagreed with about Mr. Samuels. I would love to get your thoughts as well on if you agreed or disagreed with many of the positions that he took on issues in the Black community, not just relationships, not just women's behavior, but overall, right? So please tap in. I'm going to put the link in the chat one more time. I know I've said that almost ad nauseum. But definitely want to hear people's perspective. Once again, you don't have to cam up to be part of the conversation. I say that one more time. You do not have to cam up to be part of the conversation. You can tap in, give your perspective without camming up, so you can stay off camera and, of course, still speak and share, give your piece on your thoughts regarding Kevin Samuels, his platform, his rhetoric, his positions on a litany of issues that, of course, were pertinent to the Black community. So definitely want to hear everyone's perspective. All we ask is that you do not use racial epithets to describe Black people in any way, shape, or form, irrespective of their geographical location, proximity, or place of origin. Then, of course, that you are not intellectually disingenuous. I do not allow individuals to make claims that are patently false on my show. Brother Malcolm Khalid says lack of accountability has been the detriment of the Black community for decades. Not taking responsibility for what we do to ourselves and blaming everything on racism has been very detrimental to us. You know, that reminds me of my brother Michael Jordan. That actually is a brother I'm cool with from the DYT. Shout out to West Dayton Strong 937, where he talks about this, where many so-called pro-Blacks want to blame everything on racism. We don't look at ourselves. On my platform, I've always stated that every lecture I've ever given, that we have an internal as well as an external enemy in the Black community. That internal enemy, of course, is the racially disempowering, self-defeating, and self-destructive manners in which we live our daily lives, right? And then, of course, we know that the external enemy, of course, is racism, white supremacy, anti-Black racism. We could look at structural barriers to success, institutional racism, so on and so forth. So I believe that it is a duality, a dualistic approach that we have to take to Black empowerment at home and abroad, irrespective of where we are in the world. I do know in my work, I've been doing work in the community for the past maybe 17, 18 years. That's not something that many people want to hear, right? It's very easy to point the finger and say, hell no, we won't go. But it's very difficult to look in the mirror and admit to yourself that you are Mr. or Miss Negro, right? And that we're talking about someone who is living a self-destructive lifestyle. So that's a major issue, right? Because as we know, as Queen Mother Assata Shakur taught us, right? If you haven't read Assata Shakur's memoir, which of course was written in the mid 80s, please read her book. But one thing she states in her memoir, shout out to her, sending positive energy her way down in Cuba. But she states that the first step to be a revolutionary is you have to change yourself, right? Not society. We have to change ourselves. And I think that's one of the major issues that many of us are looking to overstep, to move past, right? Not to actually grapple and deal with. Malcolm X talked about this as well, that, you know, when he gave a speech on you can't hate the roots of a tree, you can't hate your origin and not end up hating yourself, and how these feelings of self-hatred lend in as a result end up causing us to what? Feel that we're helpless and depend on, of course, the white man, of course, and his wife, who of course, as we know, put us in this detrimental situation to begin with. So, great point, Brother Malcolm Khalid. When we talk about accountability, the question is, how did we get here? Right? That's the question I would love to ask. How did we get to a point to where accountability was a taboo word, of course, in the Black community? How did we get to a place in our community to where having expectations for our people to behave and act and dress in a certain manner was seen as unbecoming? It was seen as patriarchal, was seen as someone who was looking to emulate white folks. And I argue make this point because if we go back at least just 60 years, right, prior to the Civil Rights Movement, we know that some of the leaders in our community, a job or a career or position of esteem and value in our community that held cultural collateral in our community was being a school teacher. We know 60 years ago that the young men and women in school, and we're talking about even in Black schools, that were the most popular, who were what? Star quarterback, president, student class president, were the smartest and most educated, right? Where did we go wrong? I argue it was due to the intersection, of course, of integration, the liberalization of Black community values, and of course, the breakdown of the Black family unit that contributed to the issues that we see in our community today. But once again, we're having a conversation about one Kevin Samuels. Please tap in. I know there are people leaving comments in the chat, but come on, tap in, be part of the conversation. I definitely will want to hear what you all would have to say. But Brother Malcolm Khalid said integration. How about you tap in, brother, and be part of the conversation, please, and let us know what you mean by that. Please elaborate. Tap in, be part of the conversation. Once again, you do not have to cam up, but definitely want to hear what your thoughts. Definitely want to hear from some sisters about their thoughts on Kevin Samuels. We know that for many people, he was seen as a pariah in the black woman's eyes for a litany of reasons, right, that we mentioned before at the top of the broadcast. But I think if anyone was having a objective view of him, that I think he was probably doing more good than bad. Religion plays a role in the lack of accountability too. Please tap in, be part of the conversation. Amora Jones, tap in. You don't have to cam up, and let us know what you mean by that. When you say religion plays a role. And I would say that because for some people, religion provides structure. Oftentimes people turn to religion because it provides a value system and principles for them to live their lives by. But then, of course, for other people, they see it as only God can judge me, and I'm able to do whatever the hell I want. You can't tell me to do anything, right? So come on, tap in, be part of the conversation. Don't be coy. We definitely want to have a conversation about these issues in our community and look at if we could see if we could come up with some prescriptive solutions, right? I know I had a brother tap in maybe about a week or two ago when he asked about how to handle some issues on the job. And he actually stated that the advice that I gave him actually helped him go from being a victim to a victor, right? So we talk about never forgetting where we come from and praising those bridges that carried us over. I always tell people that when we talk about the late, great Malcolm X's, the El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, right? The Fannie Lou Hamers, the Ella Joe Bakers, right? The Queen Mother Moores, and so on and so forth, and that great line of divine of that black radical tradition of audacious self-assertion. What we know is that they believed in being being able to go from victim to, of course, victor, right? So that's what we're looking to do here at Lumumba Speaks, where we believe that we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on black, right? Many people believe that in order to gain a competitive advantage, you have to change who you are, you have to assimilate, so on and so forth. I don't believe that. And of course, we like to have a platform and disseminate information that, of course, allows people to realize that and simply take what we have, the resources that we have in our own community, in our own self, and our own person, and use that to our benefit, which is something that, if you want to be quite honest, we've been doing for, I would argue, since we existed, right? You can't build the pyramids, you can't create some of the greatest civilizations of antiquity, right? And what leading learning centers in the medieval world without believing and betting on Black, consciously or unconsciously, right? So please tap in. We're having a conversation about Kevin Samuels. Did he help or hurt the Black community? Many people felt that his rhetoric was incendiary and vile towards a particularly Black women, that he was practicing of his brand of misogynoir. But he was a controversial image consultant, controversial YouTube figure. And so, of course, we just want to know, what are your thoughts about Kevin Samuels, right? I do know he was honored at the BET Awards. I don't watch the BET Awards, right? I might do a show on that, why I don't watch the BET Awards. But he was honored at the BET Awards, so we do know that he had his pulse on the culture. So definitely want to have people tap in and be part of the conversation about why they believe he helped or hurt the Black community. Brother Malcolm is arguing that integration, as well as feminism and single motherhood, hurt the Black community. Please, brother, come on, be part of the conversation and tell us why. Would love for you to actually be able to break down why you feel that those things cause the Black community harm. And then, of course, if you believe Kevin Samuels was helping the Black community by highlighting that some of these things that you mentioned were problematic. So I do remember one of these more famous or infamous shows where a Black woman said she had a baby by a guy, but she didn't marry him because he wasn't good enough to marry. And of course, he said, well, why did you marry the guy if he wasn't good enough, right? That makes no sense whatsoever. And this is about 12, 13 years ago, and the woman was still highly emotional about the situation. And of course, he said that, the woman was zip damn crazy and that she needed therapy. She didn't need to be anywhere near a relationship. Nobody cares about how he came across to people until he was honest with women. When he was honest with men, it wasn't a problem. That's very true. Very true. I've seen a clip of him where he was talking to a brother, like that brother was a dog. And no one took issue with it. No one took umbrage with it simply because he was talking to a man. But the minute he was giving what we would call straight talk to women, it became an issue. Even Kendra G, I don't watch her show, but I saw a clip where she just was straightforward with a woman, like, listen, you have like a 2-month-old baby, you're pregnant now, you just slept with a guy, this guy's in your home, why are you on the show? And people attacked her. They said that she was giving pick-me vibes, right? So we see this, unfortunately, in the culture to where it seems almost as if women in America, accountability is kryptonite, as he would say. Accountability is kryptonite. I could do no wrong. And if you're trying to correct me in any way, shape, or form, you're being patriarchal, you're being controlling, you're being sexist, you're being misogynistic, so on and so forth. So men could be held accountable, but it seems to be, for some reason, in some communities, that women cannot be held accountable. So definitely tap in, be part of the conversation. If not, I'm going to close it out because I don't want to be the only one talking, right? So please tap in, be part of the conversation. I'll put the link in the chat one more time. Then we can have a conversation about Kevin Samuels. Did he help or hurt the Black community? Or maybe even we can discuss some issues that are derivative, of course, of Kevin Samuels. Of course, as I said before, he created a cottage industry, right, where people were able to create their own platforms and gain a litany of subscribers due to his content, right? We do know that he really created a conversation in the culture, right? We know I've seen images of people on social media saying, if you follow Kevin Samuels, I'm not going to talk to you, right? So is accountability kryptonite, right? That's a great conversation to have as well. So please tap in, be part of the conversation. Once again, you don't have to cam up. And make sure you hit that subscribe and like button. And you're here at LaMobaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. Tap in, be part of the conversation, give your perspective. You don't have to cam up, but we want to know, do you believe that did Kevin Samuels help or hurt the Black community? So with that being said, I'm going to get a refill on the water, but I'm going to keep the line open. Tap in, share your thoughts. Came out. All right, come on now. Don't be shy. Tap in, be part of the conversation, give your perspective. Don't just put your comments in the chat. Be part of the conversation, give your perspective on if you believe Kevin Samuels helped or hurt the Black community. As stated before, you do not have to cam up. You don't have to give your actual name and your government information. Be part of the conversation. Let's have a robust conversation that's rooted in facts, not feelings. Conversation in which you're not being intellectually disingenuous. And of course, a conversation in which we're not using racial epithets, of course, to describe Black people, irrespective of their geographical location or place of origin. So once again, we'll have a conversation about did Kevin Samuels help or hurt the Black community? Ashe, Black Power. All right. Well, no one's tapping in, so we're going to shut it down for the evening. Appreciate everyone who came out and watched. Definitely would prefer for people to tap in, be part of the conversation. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that tonight. But please, please don't just leave your comments in the comment, right? We want you to come on, be part of the conversation and share your perspective. We could have a much more robust conversation. I think you could actually articulate yourself even clearer than leaving, of course, comments in the comment section. You actually come on and be part of the conversation. But y'all know who it is. Make sure y'all hit the subscribe and like button. Until next time, peace.